He was dead proud of it, he was. He told me, right, he sat me down, it must have been 8. No bigger than 8, right. Sat me down and told me, one day, lad, you're going to have to take over. He was proper ceremonious about it all. Oh, it had to be really nature of the job, innit? Ceremony, funerals, it's what the business is. So really, when you get down to it, it's not hard to understand why the man was the way he was. Or, you know, you could say he just went into where he felt that his ceremonious nature was best put to use. Whenever I think of my dad, I don't think about him in the same way I reckon other people think about their dad standing above him. Piggybacks, ice cream, donkey rides, that sort of shit. My dad made me porridge for breakfast every morning, but with salt instead of sugar. Not like we couldn't afford cereal or anything. You know, we weren't rolling in it, but certainly had enough to not be living hand to mouth. He said to me, it's what I went through, so it's only right that you go through it as well. Followed it up, tried to console me, like, when you're older, you'll be able to make your own choices, but now, you know. And it made sense at the time, young minds and all. Bit of a crazy bastard he was. It was 1997, must have been. And he took me, started taking me, eventually became a regular thing, down to his local to meet the lads. Sat me in the corner with a packet of quavers and a Coke and I was sorted. He even let me pick whatever channel I wanted on the telly. I'd never seen him in that environment before, with all his mates. Because the dad I knew was the one who came home at 8 in the evening every day. Didn't matter what day it was, stationed himself at the kitchen table and just looked into nothingness. Not a humorous man, quite stern, but the way I saw him around his pals, was just a totally different bloke. I think I actually, for the first time, and I'd been alive under his roof for 8 years until then, I think it was the very first time I'd ever seen him smile. Clever man though, very clever. Didn't like the way I spoke, liked proper English. You know, it was really all said and done, a very English bloke. Said I sounded common. Worst thing to be for him really, couldn't think of anything worse than common. And not ordinary either, don't mean that, because he wasn't a particularly extraordinary man, he just didn't want to be poor. You know? And not to say we lived above our means or anything, Jesus Christ, no we didn't. Semi-detached on an estate in Vauxhall, bought it in 1989, year before I was born. Bought it at a steal from the council. Met my mum's down in Stafford, got knocked up within a month and brought her north. I don't know why I moved here. He never told me. Didn't make sense how much he fucking hated the place. He never even tried leaving. I looked nothing like him, right? Absolutely nothing. If you saw us on the street, you'd have no fucking idea. Honestly, I'm not even joking. I heard him saying to my mum one night when I was a kid that he didn't think I was his. And I suppose she must have brought him round to it or something, because only 2 weeks later he was telling me how I was set to, when he popped off himself, that he was leaving his business to me. Life's work, something like that. Some bullshit. I didn't really know what it meant then. Not just the formalities of it or the fortune of having a place to land, because it's not like I ever had a chance at school. But what I didn't understand, and it's taken me a long time to recognise, was what it meant to him. Like I said, he was a man of ceremony, inheritance, handing down his hard work to a successor. Don't mean anything when you're a kid, does it? Only matters when there's nothing else left. My head's straight on. Or at least it is now. I moved out for a bit, didn't I, when I was 14. Friend sofas, that sort of thing. Until social services came around and took me back home. I can't remember what happened to make me get out of there, but it can't have been that bad. He used to tell me I had very little tolerance for even the slightest hostility. Lost me rag if someone didn't smile at me passing on the stairs. I'm not like that now. I don't remember ever being like that. But then again, do we really remember ourselves as kids? No. every time, I feel I get close to understanding the bloke, and that's how I felt then too, because right before he died, he started telling me what was what. All the answers to the questions I wanted to know for years. Family drama, feuds, excommunication, money disputes, all that. Questions, some of them I didn't even know I was asking myself, but I've been for years. Death makes people honest, really. Makes an honest man out of anyone. And it was me in the end who arranged the service. My mum couldn't do it, and our Jackie couldn't face it either, too young. It wasn't that much work, really. We had a girl who was unexperienced at the time, so I just made her do all the things that got me to... made me feel sick, so I didn't end up doing much except preparing the prayers. None of the prayers felt right for them, so eventually I picked the page of the first number that came into my head. 237, 93, 12. No one noticed the service anyway. Don't think people tend to notice when they're in that state. Not like anyone would have cared. No one thought he was a good Christian. I don't care much for the job, if I'm being honest. But it gives me good routine, and the wife's expecting, so it's not like I can do without the money. But I don't care for it. Not like he did. There was a time I really wanted to care, but I just couldn't find it in me. Felt like me liking the job was a case of obligation, the duty to the memory of my father, my flesh, my blood, all that shit. The man everyone told me I loved. I don't think I ever loved him in the way I felt I should have, but I always reckoned it was mutual. I tell you why I wonder why he ever came here, and I'm still at no real conclusion. We never met his side of the family, and so me and Jackie used to make up stories about how we didn't have one. Or like they'd perished in some great fire, homicide, and my dad had to run away, fake his own death, escape the foster system, all that. Children's tales, really, just to make sense of them, man. He must have heard us talking about it, at least once, but he didn't correct us or nothing. And when we'd ask him questions, even my mum was on the rare evening. He'd warm up to us after a few too many cans of lager, but he wouldn't give us an answer. And then, on his deathbed, he told me. Only me. As I was standing above him lying down, blinking slowly, ushered me closer to him and let it all go. If I'm honest, I couldn't for the life of me tell you all the ins and outs because they were so unremarkable. I wish he would have made something up for his own sake. He was so afraid of not being remarkable, not being remembered. Conventional upbringing, youngest at 12, only one of them to relocate beyond a 5-mile radius. His mother, oh God, he had more love in his eyes mentioning her once than he did towards my own mum in my entire life. His mother was half Austrian or something, worked for a charity for neglected livestock. His dad left when he got his older sister pregnant. I suppose the real revelations, the real truths came about after he passed. It was a sudden illness, unexpected by him more than anyone else, though we were shocked. But the amount of time he spent in those grimy free houses meant that sooner or later catching something quite nasty was inevitable. He was 29 when I was born, 52 when he died. And because it was so sudden, fitting working on the Tuesday, dead by the next, there was no time for the will or even an informal arrangement of the kind. We didn't want to pry, but I think it was part of the process for us all, go up to the loft and see what his life had accumulated to. It was how we did it. I mean, Mum wanted to do it, find the fragments he'd left of himself, for us and all. Again, it was me who found it. Wasn't quite obvious, wasn't quite hidden away either. Just a little slip of card, printed with words, a date, location, an invitation to a christening, and with it, bound with a paperclip, sticking together from all the years of dormancy up in our attic, A photograph. I'd never seen him so young. Never seen photos from that age. My age now. Full head of hair. Smiling. Couldn't believe it. Proper smiling. Smiling, you know, proper happy. Ear to ear kind of smile. Wasn't the man I knew whatsoever. Wasn't hard guess who the woman and the children were. The ones he had his arms around. A little one up to his knee. Another in his arms, draped in white like a little ornament. Like a doll, not real. Look, the sort of ridiculous thing Mum makes up on the tree every Christmas. I inspected it, surreptitiously, you know, in case my mum or sister saw us, but they were preoccupied with the paraphernalia, you know, the sporting medals, handwritten letters of his youth, that sort of thing. I thought to myself, why hadn't he told us? But I was as quick to answer my own question as I was to ask it. Made sense chronologically when I worked it out. Why he was so eager to get away. Get himself out of hot water once I became a reality. You know, when I was done with it, I thought, oh well, I can't just leave it here and scrunch it in my pocket. Got a proper crease like, but I couldn't leave it for any old sorts of fines, you know. Especially not with them two rooting around that they would have recovered him alive and well amongst all the rest of the tat. We're too far gone now, to tell him, I mean. It took a long time for my mum especially to deal with his passing. We might as well have shipped all our skeletons from the parlour to where she was getting through him so fast. Nearly had to take out another loan just for that. She's a bit of a fainter now. Oh, it's just a good job I had all the stuff handy. When I got it out again, the photograph, you know, to look at it myself, take your time with it. I naturally began imagining, you know, where the woman and the children were. You know, my father's children. Thoughts about what sort of people they turned into, if they were like me in any way. I wondered what they knew, you know, if they knew about us, you know, me family, me and Jackie and Mum. I wondered where they thought their dad was. Or if they even noticed him go. I envisaged myself tracking him down and turning up on the doorstep saying, hello, I'm your son. Well, son of sorts. Hello, I'm your brother. You don't know me, but there's someone up there, don't know who the fuck it is, who's orchestrated the whole scenario for us to be brought together. And then I thought whether he would have wanted that and came to the conclusion yet. No. Probably not. So, I'll tell you what I did. I did nothing. Kept the slip though for sentimentality's sake, even though I'm not a man of sentiment. If there is one thing that can be said about me, it is that. When it's town showed some mates, they said, even if the bloke's dead, even if he didn't want to respect his wishes, what were and are assumed to be his wishes, you can't just go around knocking on some stranger's door announcing yourself as their ancestor. They said to me, and this was good advice, you know, stellar. You got to think about what you want. And you don't want this. Of course you don't. You're just looking for something to hold on to him with. Keep your grasp on whatever remains of your dead dad, but it's not your dad, they're strangers. But maybe he was too. I still want him back anyway. So, I did nothing. Put the invitation, the photograph in a shoebox in the back of my wardrobe. Take it out sometimes. To see him smiling.